morning. It's Brian here. We're on the Art of Startup War. You are here again with a phenomenal entrepreneur. This is one actually I go right back to the beginning with. Anthony and I were friends first, and at the time I knew it was the most incredible invention on the planet, but this was before we even had a fund. And I worked with Anthony. We tried to find investors outside. The second I had a fund, I think this was the first company, or maybe second, only because it might have been a Tuesday, that we invested in. And that's how much I believed in him. I love the company Fitly, which are the creators of SmartPlate. I love him more than anything. And I will add one thing before I do the intro. I'll always remember when I brought Anthony up to my partner, who's our LP over here at Expert Dojo. And I brought him up because we were at the beginning of our relationship. He had just put the fund together. And I thought, I want you to see the kind of folks that I want to invest in. I invest in great people. I said, that's our thesis. We find the great people. We make sure the product is good, but the greatness of the people comes first. And I said to him, I want you to meet this guy. And Richard said to me, no, I don't want to meet your people. I trust you. You're fine. I'm going, look, will you meet him? And I brought Anthony up and he said, that guy, he said, there's a part of me that hopes it doesn't work because there are so many companies I would put him in as CEO of. He is an absolute beast, quote unquote. And from that first interaction, which was years ago, was it like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago now.
Yeah, I mean, from that first interaction, he's still, anytime I mention what's going on with you, and there's been a heck of a lot of good things we're going to talk about today, he will always say to me, why do you always tell me about the good stuff? It was obvious that he was going to nail it. That's it. That's what it is. Anthony, welcome to the show, my friend.
Awesome, man. Wow, what an incredible intro. And I do remember that meeting, and I felt the same way about your LP as well. Like, what an incredible person, how much he's achieved. And I thought to myself, I'm going to be there someday, exactly where he is, interviewing entrepreneurs, trying to place them into projects and things that I'm working on. And I really appreciate it, even though he didn't invest more money because he was being careful. He actually wanted me to do something else. He said, I think his exact words were, hey, you're amazing, but you're too big for this own idea, right? Like, you're too big for your own idea. And I thought, well, you don't understand. Like, this is going to be really big. You haven't matched it up yet, but and look,
he didn't hesitate though, right? He didn't hesitate, and not even for a second. He's like, yeah, whatever. And at that time, we only had 50K checks. Like we were teeny weeny. We were just starting out, and he didn't hesitate for a second. He's gone, yeah, of course, just put the money into him. Like that money you're going to get back 50 times over, no matter how it's done. He said that guy is a stand-up guy. He's going to be a billionaire someday. So yeah, it's just amazing to see how far you've come, and your journey is such an incredible journey, and it's one that's like founded on this beautiful story. So I want to start there, I'm just pleased I get to hang with you for an hour and we get to chat and talk and speak about old times, especially as you're over in Puerto Rico now. But B, I just love your story so much. For me, you are the quintessential perfect story of an entrepreneur, of every single part of the journey, of the belief, of the forcing through, of the making sure that the impossible happens no matter what, like all of it, right? Let's start at the beginning though. I'm going to stop rambling. Start at the beginning. Tell us, what was the inspiration behind Fitly, and just talk a little bit about those early days.
Great. Well, thank you, Brian. That's a great tribute, great intro. I'm honored, and I'm so honored to be on your show, man. I feel the same way about you. Your energy is part of the reason why I'm just like so excited. And since I first met you, I was like, dude, you're going to be a great investor. And I do want to talk about that, like the importance of the kinds of investors you select. It's not about the money. The energy that you've brought on, to Fitly, has the intros that you've made, but mainly your energy, your push, that positivity, even just the cheerleading. But it's your cheerleading is a kind of belief, unwavering faith that I'm going to get into with my story that you have.
Awesome.
And so it's important to like find that person that mirrors you more than money. Right? Unless you absolutely are going to die, then you need to take the money, right? Like, money or death, take the money. But it really goes back to when I was little, and this is kind of crazy, but when I was little, like 6, 7 years old, I used to pray to God for special powers, no joke, and that I would use it for good. That if he just gave me the ability to do something magnificent for this world, to literally impact. I used to think, what can I do that can impact everyone in the world, right? So it was this inventor's mentality that, and I always had that since I was little, and I realized that later on the prayers were actually answered, and I didn't realize that I didn't have superpowers, but I had this ability to create and invent, and that was my superpower. It was just creativity, and I asked for it, I got it. And the question was, okay, well, what do I do with it? And so I'm an artist first and an entrepreneur second, actually. And so I had so many ideas. I was flushed every day. I would wake up with a lot of ideas, and I couldn't control them all. So I remember my dad saying, you're a dreamer. When are you going to focus and hone in on something? Right. And then I used to read stories like, Mark Cuban, sorry. He used to say things like, you only have to be right once with all of your ideas. Another entrepreneur who was wrong 19 times, but then had his first exit for 10 million cash, things like that. And I just knew that at one point I was going to get one right, right? And I just needed to hone in on one thing. And after starting my first business, which was a logistics company, I ended up going into financing, becoming a mortgage broker. I wanted to understand finances, Wall Street, and I didn't want my creativity to depend on other people's money. So I went to Wall Street to make money to fund my own ideas. So I became a mortgage broker, right? And then after I did really well before 2007 when the housing market collapsed, and I was able to exit with a little bit of cash and start a logistics company, which was Uber for sorry, it was kind of like Uber for drayage, where
Mm.
I hired independent operators. I did okay, but it wasn't really fulfilling. I ended up doing $1 million in revenue under 6 months, about 6 to 9 months, and then I sold that
Phenomenal.
company.
But
I sold that.
you're not changing the world, right? It's not
No, I
feeding your
wasn't. I
purpose.
tried to. I tried to because it was called Eco Logistics Corp. And I tried to create our tagline was the sustainable logistics company. The industries that I was in, I was helping scrap metal, recycled goods, corrugated paper. So I partnered with the largest exporters in the country, America Chung Nam, Sims Metal Management, Waste Management, all Fortune 1000 companies. And so I felt good about being in the trucking space, but dealing with recycled materials. But it wasn't enough in terms of the actual CO2 being emitted by our drivers. And it, unless you own the trucks and the fleet, there's very little impact that you can have. So I wasn't
Yeah.
fulfilled in that space. Around that time, I almost lost my dad to heart disease,
Ugh.
and we nearly lost him to triple bypass surgery. And if anybody's ever seen what that's like, I mean, a single bypass is crazy. A triple bypass is like, you know, he may or may not come back from that, right? And so my dad's a 6'4" burly dude, the rock of the family, and I've never seen him, in that position ever in his life. And so he looked really like he was on the other side. Pale skinned, almost just something I don't wish on anyone. And I'm also fortunate because I do have friends who have lost their dad. So I feel very lucky that we were blessed that we didn't lose him. He survived that operation. But while I was in the waiting room, I don't know how I ended up with this book, but it was just like weird. I ended up with the book called The China Study by Dr. T. Colin Campbell. And I'm sitting there waiting. We're waiting in the lobby for like to see if my dad's going to be okay or not. And I'm literally reading this chapter where Dr. Campbell says, no one ever has to die from heart disease or stroke. It is a lifestyle choice. And I was so mad. I remember being like this feeling of anger came over me where I thought, how could you do this? No, like, how did we not know this? How did you not know this? Like, he shouldn't be there, right? So that frustration I just built on. I said, all right, I need to. This is my calling. I need to do something. I get it now. I want to be in health. I was always into bro science at the time. I didn't know better, but I always worked out since my early 20s, and I wanted to do something in this space, but I didn't want to be a band-aid. That was the other thing. Like, if you're gonna do something, go to the core, because band-aids are also more like features, and features, they make an impact, but not as big as a core solution to a problem. So I wanted to play at the core, and at the time, um, uh, Michelle Obama was pretty much talking about the Let's Move campaign. So there was a
Yeah.
lot of focus on fitness and moving, but no one was talking about nutrition. So anyway, I decided to use my logistics background and domain expertise at the time
And
to
actually, it was even worse because she was trying so hard to change the way drinks and food and preservatives and all of the terrible,
yep.
terrible, terrible things that afflict America. And it just failed horribly. And it
Mm,
was so sad because she went with all her might, and the lobby groups came back at her with all
hmm.
their might. And you realize you can't fix that system by breaking down the door in the front. You have to sneak in the back
Yeah,
without
yeah,
them noticing, which is why
yeah.
I love where you're going to next.
Yeah, I mean, to her credit, the awareness of what happened, she had some momentum and people were moving, and from that effort, a lot of these gardening schools, started like gardens at schools
Hmm.
programs started to come about. So I don't think her work was completely fruitless. It planted a really nice seed, and it was sort of like this marketing engine, a free marketing engine of awareness for us, similar to what COVID-19 is doing now.
Yeah.
COVID-19 has been like incredible for our business because people are realizing now there's a new renewed consciousness of how sick we are, right? And we'll get into that later, the number one cause of this. And, it's insulin resistance and high blood sugar, and diabetes, right? So you might as well just call COVID-19 the sugar flu,
Yeah.
essentially. And so, anyway,
Amazing.
so around that time, I started off and I said, okay, well, how do I use my logistics background to create a solution for diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and obesity? And I created Fitly. It was called Fitly, the meal delivery service company out of Philadelphia. And we got our first check from Dream Adventures. It was a $50,000 check. They had partnered with Penn Medicine and Independence Blue Cross, a subsidiary of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. And so we got $50,000. They took a small stake in our business, but it was a great partnership to have a payer and provider along with an accelerator. And I thought this is great because I'm going after healthcare. I'm going to need Penn Medicine and Independence Blue Cross eventually, right? This is a healthcare play. And I always saw it as that. The problem was I launched this meal kit delivery service similar to Blue Apron or Plated,
Hmm. Yeah.
and at the time, Blue Apron had already raised $50 million. Plated was trailing right behind them. First round capital and many other VCs had already placed their bets on these horses. And even though they weren't targeting healthcare chronic conditions, and they were using a decentralized fulfillment model. A centralized fulfillment model. What I did is I created a decentralized fulfillment model, partnered with grocery stores, and I created the same type of product for half the price.
Yeah.
Well, the big lesson there was that timing trumps everything.
Everything. Timing and
Everything.
money trump everything.
Correct. Yeah,
Even
you run
better
out of
ideas
fuel,
and yeah.
that's true. If
Yeah.
you run out of
Absolutely.
fuel, you're done. And if your timing is off, you could have a better business model, superior business model, cheaper, cheaper proposition, whatever. It's not going to work. And so,
Perfect.
yeah. So
So
anyway, I decided that instead of folding the cards, I had my other mission in addition to trying to impact 1 billion people's lives in terms of getting healthy. My other mission is to my family, friends, and investors. Like if I'm coming up, everybody around me is coming up. So I can't fail them, right? So that's near and dear. That's the mission. They go hand in hand,
hmm.
right? It's purpose and profit together
Yeah.
for me. I'm
I
not,
feel
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, right. So it's a fiduciary responsibility. Every CEO has to understand that early on. Like you have a mission that is your core. Make sure you're true to that. Never steer away from that. But then at the end of the day, you also have a responsibility to everybody who invested in you. And I got family, friends. I'm talking my mom and dad are on my cap table. Like gave me money,
Wow.
wrote me check. Like I can't fail them. I want to retire them. I'm not going to fail. You
Man,
know what
that's
I mean?
so
So
much
it's like
pressure. That's
it is
so
a lot
much
of pressure, but I
pressure. It's
love it
pressure.
because yes, right? It's like, hey, I'm not. If I go down, my family comes down with me. I'm not doing that. It's not going to happen.
It's like Thanksgiving. Pass the
Right.
turkey because I paid for it, and the other
Right.
turkey as well. It's like,
Right.
damn,
Right.
Dad, come on, give me a break. He's like, come on, give me my return. I think it's great though. It actually shows the strength of an entrepreneur. When an entrepreneur, you start off with your own money, you then bring in your family, you bring in your friends. It just shows real belief, and it shows tremendous respect for then asking money from folks that you don't even know. Like, it just shows such respect. It says, "Are you kidding me? Like, I went to me first, and I went to my mom and my dad. Like, you think that I'm gonna risk that ever not being paid back?" And to
Right.
your testament, every single action that you've done to bring this product to market, keep this product in market, and then get it thriving in market has absolutely reinforced that there is no way. It's not a question of the captain going down with the ship. You will dive in the water, fix the hole in the hull, climb back up on top again, and get behind the wheel. The ship ain't going down.
Hell yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that level of commitment. I mean, you have to believe that because a lot of people, I remember this was a test. I was looking for co-founders early on, and I would ask these, first year, second year MBA candidates and Wharton or Booth School, and I would say, "Hey man, if this doesn't work, what are you going to do?" And this was my sort of a just a test question. And they would say, "Well, I'll just go work at McKinsey or I'll go work at," and bam, wrong answer,
Yeah.
out, next guy. Right? So the minute that's one of the things that I use, that there is no plan B. You got to burn the boats. And I know everybody, it's a beat up subject, but I don't even think it's like burning the boats. It's beyond that. It is it is ties back to the mission, has to be a divine, the more your mission is coming from a force that's greater than yourself, and
Yeah,
you
I
really
like
truly
divine.
need to believe that, right?
I think divine really nails it. Like, it has to be
You got
something
it.
that you feel it's your life's
Hmm.
meaning. If it's not your
That's
life's
it.
meaning,
Yeah.
then it's okay, but you ain't gonna
Yeah.
die for that sucker. So,
Right.
and with you, I know that you have it in your mind, like the amount of people that you can save with this. So then, how did you traverse over? So you had the meal kits. Was it just a light bulb that went off and thought, no, we actually need to go more directly to the source rather than being what gets delivered? We need to be what they use every single day.
Yeah, so it was sort of this epiphany that I had where, one, you're cornered in. Where do you go? I'm too late. Once I realized I'm late to market. I'm not going to raise capital. I need to raise capital. Um, what's my other option? I could shut down the company, not an option for me, or I can out innovate the competition. There's something that I am not thinking about here. So I literally just for about a week, I went in my man cave, my Philadelphia like basement, living in a house at that point, and I just went and for literally about a week, I didn't take any calls. I was literally just trying to think and summoning the answer, because a lot of people don't take time to actually shut up and think for hours and keep saying, no, that what is it? What is it? You have to bother your brain, your subconscious. The answer is in there, but you need to really like wait, like you need to beat it up for the answer to come, and then you need to wait for it, and however long that takes, whatever. I did things like, just weird exercises, brushing my teeth with the opposite hand, walking backwards,
Very good.
aerobics, right?
Very
you
good. You
know
broke your
you
rhythm.
know
That's actually, I just want to
yeah,
stop there for a second. But
sure.
like, breaking your rhythm is tremendously important. You cannot find an innovative thought if you're doing exactly the same thing in exactly the same manner, in exactly the same format, in exactly the
Right.
same repetitive way that you did the day before. Like, you have to stop and break that cycle so that your mind can think differently and be incredibly intentional. Really, really, really smart advice. And then what? It just came?
Yeah, and then I had an idea, which is, well, I had an idea to interview this person and say, you know what, let me see what the head of HR at this large insurance company
Yeah.
thinks, and let me just run it by her. I had the idea. It came in the shower, actually. So something connected to water, but it did came in the shower. It did come in the shower, and it was this idea for something. It was like an aha moment. The Fitbit for food. That's it. That's kind of the thought that came to me. The Fitbit for food. That's it.
Beautiful.
What does it look like? It's a plate. It's a smart plate, but how smart is it? And you know it and it's been an evolution, right? And so I tested the idea with the head of HR of this large insurance company, and she said, Anthony, I actually always liked your idea of a meal delivery service, but what I realized is that once you deliver the food, you can't tell me or anyone else who's eating what, right? So is mom eating the whole grain bread? Is dad eating dairy, or who's the vegan in the household, and that kind of thing, right? And so, since we always wanted to go after corporate wellness, self-insured companies, obviously these individuals would give us permission to share their data with these providers so that they can get a discount on their
Yeah.
health insurance. That was the idea. So she said, when you have this device, I mean, and we have this data, even in an aggregate HIPAA compliant way, that's just phenomenal. We can know who's eating what and what demographics are exactly. It's so much closer to the mouth, right? So it's
So
it's
to be very
perfect. I mean,
clear, this looks like this is a artificial intelligence based
yeah,
with some machine
yep,
learning built into it device that looks
yes,
exactly like you're showing on the screen, but to describe it to people who are
sure,
listening, it's in three segments. And then what's happening is using your app at exactly the same time, the device is able to tell not only the food that you have sitting there, but it's able to tell a ton of data about that food. And actually, on a super base level, and we're going to go deeper on this, but on a super base level, I have no idea how many calories or how much just bad stuff that I'm eating ever. I'll just have a plate, there'll be stuff put on it, I'll eat it, and then I'll go ahead and I'll do my next thing. And if I think about it, it's kind of stupid because we should be measuring. We know there's a certain amount of calories and there's a certain amount of vitamins and a certain amount of other things that we need to eat on a daily basis. And if we're not measuring those, then how the heck are we preparing our body for longitude of life? Right? I mean, that's the principle of where you're going to. So maybe speak to us a little bit about what SmartPlate can actually measure and why.
yeah. Tony Robbins, my special advisor and mentor now, always says, "What gets measured gets done." And
Yeah.
if you look at every extreme athlete, performer out there, when they are tracking or preparing for whatever event that they're doing or competition, they're measuring everything, or their coach is measuring everything for them. So literally, nutritionists are walking around with a scale, a digital scale, or they've got their client using this, but the top performers in the world are using this. And I'm not saying everybody needs to think like a top performer, but if if you're looking to get results, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get a coach, you're going to get milestones, objectives, and things, so if you're not measuring what you're doing, you may get some results if what you were already doing was so bad that just the mere fact of thinking of doing something positive, you'll get some result, and
No,
that's what's happening, right?
listen, mate, I'm going to go further on this. Everybody should be a top performer. This is not like
Yes.
winning your football game or like making it through a game of tennis and winning in 3 seconds. This is effing life. Like the loss means you die. It means that you don't exist anymore. Like, why
Mm,
would you want to die at 40, 50, 60 when you can have an extra 10 years? Like, why would you want your family not to enjoy you for an extra 20, 25, 30 years? Why would anybody choose not to be a top performer in the only damn thing we really truly have, which is our own lives? It's just the challenge we have is it's not that we don't want it, it's that we don't understand the fallibility of ourselves. Like, we don't
mm,
understand that if we don't do this and we don't focus on this in advance, then we will die and we will not exist here anymore. And then that's the final curtain. It's all over. And especially Anthony, at a time where we have worse diabetes than we've ever had, we've got more
mhm.
obesity than we've ever had. We've got diseases coming back into kids due to obesity that we haven't had in 150 years. That's
Yeah,
how
it's
bad
crazy.
things are right now.
Yeah,
So
it's
what
crazy.
you're doing is absolutely divine. It is absolutely life-saving. And I want to get to the implementation a little bit. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure that
Mhm,
because a lot of the folks who are listening to this are investors. And those
mhm,
investors want to be able to say, okay, we get this is a life-saving product. We get it. It makes total sense. But we want to understand how that happens. How do we get it out to the market? Who in the market is going to buy it? How much do they pay for it? What type of margins do we have in there? We don't need to go too deep, but just let's get a bit of an idea. And then how do we turn this into something which is $100 million, $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar business? Because the why is super clear.
yeah, great. Thank you. And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, look, everybody needs this in their home. I see the future where SmartPlate is in every single kitchen, just like a NutriBullet. And we should all be using this every day, because what I'm going to tell you next is not what we've come up with is not it's not just a product that helps you measure food, but we also came up with a groundbreaking blood sugar balancing blood sugar program that only works with SmartPlate.
Wow.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about that study and how that we were able to reverse prediabetes and early onset type 2 diabetes. And 2021 is the year of glycemic variability control. All the biohackers are talking about this. Peter Attia, Ben Greenfield, Tony Robbins, everybody's understanding now, at least the folks who are advanced at the top level, they realize that it's not that balancing your blood sugar is one of the key metrics to longevity, right?
Wow.
There's a direct association between balancing blood sugar and increased telomeres. So at every meal, the trick should be, how do I literally eat a balanced meal? Balanced meaning the right proportion of fats to carbs and protein
Wow.
at every meal. And the only way to do that is to weigh all three. And we have one of the only groundbreaking formula that works with SmartPlate to do that. Our first study was published in the American Diabetes Association Journal just 2 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And the results were so statistically significant for all the researchers or researcher investors out there. The significance was minus 0.001. It's extremely statistically significant.
Incredible.
And as such, Penn Medicine is now funding our second study, which we launch in January 2021 with 100 patients. So it's going to get very interesting. And I agree with you, Brian. I think this product belongs in every household. Behavior change is tough. Most people need to do this. A lot of people won't, but our serviceable obtainable market for the people who will is over 120 billion worldwide.
Wow.
And because that there's over 450 million diabetics now estimated, between 400 and 450 million,
It's
right?
ridiculous.
So in the US alone, the serviceable obtainable market is $9 billion. I'm not even talking about obese, overweight people, folks who are athletes, consumers. This is a straight up diabetes. It's that big of a market. And we intend to capture 25% of that at least. We are a category leading product and company in this space. There is no other smart plate on the planet. We have about 7 patents, 4 granted, 2 pending. All international patents are already protected for China, India, Australia, all of Europe. So what that means for investors is, we're raising right now. We just partnered with Tony Robbins, who is also a shareholder in our company, Tony Robbins and Sage. And
Amazing.
yeah. So we're super,
That's a big, big, big deal. You
yeah.
know, having Tony Robbins come in, I mean, you had a bunch of milestones which just showed like the tenacity of getting a product to market that's just so incredibly complicated to get to market. And you did it and you broke it through and you got everybody to be a believer. But actually that step of then taking it further and actually getting Tony Robbins in as a shareholder in the company, and not just as a shareholder in the company, but recommending you to all of his followers. Like the fact that he's done
Yeah,
that speaks volumes to what
yeah.
to the actual level of importance that he believes that you're going to play in this war against stupid. It's not even obesity. It's not even obesity. It's not even diabetes. It's stupidity. Like the fact that we have kids that are diabetic, I don't even get how that happens. I don't get how we went so far back in the last 20 years that now we've got 12, 13, 14-year olds who are just sitting with food related disorders that would normally afflict somebody of 50 or 60.
Yeah, look, I have a lot more empathy than I used to, and my heart bleeds for people who are obese, morbidly obese, children who are now affected by this disease. Because what essentially has happened, it's the same epidemic that happened with heroin and prescribed drugs. Practitioners have gone, crazy prescribing these things to young teenagers, starting off with PTSD, misdiagnosis to anxiety, writing off drugs, who are now these kids, a lot of teenagers. And I have, a family member who struggles with this issue, right? And now there's a huge, heroin problem and prescription overdosing problem throughout the world, right? And it's addiction. And so food is no different. In
Huh.
fact, there was a study where they had these lab rats, and through 2 tubes, they fed one of the lab rats liquid Schedule 1 drugs like heroin and cocaine, and then through the other tube, it was liquid sugar. The
Oh,
rats came to the sugar every time. We have added sugar on everything,
It's terrible.
insidiously to all these products and these kids, these commercials, all these. So there is a war going on against irresponsible food marketing
Yeah,
companies,
yeah,
right? That's the war that we're up against, and we need
yeah.
to take our stuff back. So yes, I would say that having a smart plate in the
Beautiful,
kitchen is an educational tool. We're going to have a huge feature that has a sugar alert on it. So when your
beautiful.
kids use it, they know what's in it. When they zap one of the barcodes, immediately they're going to be able to see that. Going back to the opportunity here, when Tony Robbins joined, we were ecstatic, but our visions are aligned. And this is a guy who's impacted over 50 million lives easy. I think
Yeah,
that's an underestimation. It's probably
totally.
more like 100 million. And he impacted my life, Natalia's life, and her kid's life, and just so this is a guy that I thought first and foremost, he's a good dude. He's got a good heart, and
Yeah,
his heart is first. So if my heart is aligned with his, right? So impact is there, profit will follow,
yeah.
right? So that's the first step. So again, looking at that investor match, a lot of
And his following is
yeah,
huge. His following is
following
huge.
is
Like
huge,
he
totally.
has, he
Yeah,
has, and it's a dedicated following. It's a
yeah,
sticky following, and
yeah,
his
yeah.
word means a lot. So bringing
We
him into
did,
the fold is
yeah,
huge. And how do you
yeah. I just
see
gotta
that? If
say,
go on, yeah,
our first digital campaign that we did during COVID was his first UPW virtual event. Unbelievable what he did with this 360-degree stadium. So he got 23,000 people in the middle of COVID, spent $4 million on this new stage to revamp his business, had to go digital now. So talk about the guy practices what he preaches. When winter is here, COVID was the winter of all winters, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
this is
Jon
a guy
Snow.
who had, you know what I'm saying? Well, that's it. And he always preaches that at all. If you know Tony's work, it's one of the lines that he uses. Well, he put his money where his mouth is. During COVID, he built this $4 million studio to have thousands and thousands of people being able to cast live on Zoom. And so we launched the first UPW virtual event where normally at a brick and mortar, he would only have at maximum 10,000 capacity. Now he's got 23,000 people as a test, right? Puts us on SmartPlate, 5-second segment, the fourth day at the last hour, 9 p.m. I mean, these people have been going on for 4 days. They're exhausted. Within 5 minutes, we did $26,000 in 5 minutes
Wow.
in pre-order sales, and then the pursuant 24 hours, we did $66,000 in revenue, and we doubled the pricing elasticity with his audience as well. So it's an incredible business. You talked a little bit about margins. Our margins, I would say, are over 65, 70%,
Beautiful,
and we have
beautiful.
a hardware SaaS model. So when you buy the hardware, it comes with a lifetime premium app, but you then upgrade if you want all the coaching and all the incredible benefits of the balancing blood sugar program that I talked about earlier. So you can manage your keto, you can manage everything from the system, get recipes, meal plans. That's $19.99 a month. So it's a monthly
So you
subscription, and
have a
it comes with a
subscription in there too. Very good.
100%. Yeah. And the reason we partnered with Tony was the other reason is, look, 50% of the other competitor that we have is our biggest competitor is behavior change, right?
Yeah.
I met a nurse once, literally, I won't say the institution, but this nurse said to me, I would rather die than eat healthy. And I couldn't
Oof.
believe it. That's what we're up against, right?
Yeah.
So, but I know that
But you know what?
what
She
I
doesn't
see,
actually, you know what? That nurse, he or she, they don't actually really mean it. It's just, it's cheap words in a moment that
hmm
sound fine to say because they don't believe they're going to die. It goes back to my original comment
right,
about if folks knew, if folks could see a future picture of themselves, like 20, 30, 40 pounds heavier, lying on a bed, having a surgeon working on their heart, they would change behavior in a second and they would not
yeah,
wish to die. And that's why. So I'm speaking to, in the last 3 or 4 minutes of this segment, of this interview here, I'm speaking to all investors. Like, we all know that the biggest indicator of success in startup, assuming the underlying stuff is all correct, which is amazing team, which Anthony has, which is phenomenal product, which he has, which is a willing audience, which Anthony has, and the ability to produce. And I want to talk about projections for next year just before we hit the raise. But we know the real kicker that helps something go from zero to a unicorn is timing. And right now, in this here place, the timing has never been better to have a device in everybody's kitchen, which is aesthetically absolutely beautiful, for every single parent in the United States and beyond to be able to measure what their children eat and what's actually inside those foods so they can make sure that our kids grow up to be healthy, so we can make sure that we stay healthy, so that we can just make sure that we live a good life. Okay, so we're bought into it. The timing is there. I want to get, if we can, to what the potential is for next year. So, like, let's say this year we do the raise. How much are you raising right now, Anthony, and how much is left in it?
Yeah, right now we're raising 3.5 million pre-seed.
Mm-hmm.
The cap is a $33 million pre-money valuation. We're already about 30-40% into the round.
Beautiful.
We got that 30-40% commitment within 12 hours just from a lot of
Yeah,
Tony's investors and Lion
beautiful.
and Platinum members. Yeah.
Easy peasy. And I know we, from
Yeah.
Expert Dojo side, once we finish this and we get this out, we'll be working with VCs. I'm pretty sure an institutional will come in at this stage as well. But so the round is there. Now, what's going to happen next year? You're going to raise the 3 million this year. You're going to like
Yep.
get the rest of the year, putting everything in place. You're going to hit the beginning of next year. Pretend we're at the end of 2021. What
Well,
just
look,
happened?
I described one event with Tony Robbins, right? That was $66,000 on day one, less than 24 hours. We have starting in December, we have other events planned with Tony, and we're going to be featured in his book. So this is a marketing distribution channel. He has a lot of events in Fiji. He does health mastery. We also, part of our agreement is that we're doing a curriculum as health mastery. I'm also being brought in to
Boom.
talk at pretty much every digital event that he has. So now that he's gone digital, he's doing almost an event or two per month, right? So you can imagine just from Tony alone, we're doing several $1 million a year. And then, of course, from all the other efforts, the thing is that Tony's a multiplier. He trains, I mean, he's coached Serena Williams, Oprah, and so many others. So whenever I need an introduction, to open a door
He's
for a
got
bigger
them. He's
person,
got them all.
he's
Hey,
got
I would
every
fist bump you right now if
I would do it
this
right here,
doesn't
dude. Do it.
work. It doesn't
Boom.
work. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so happy for you because
Thanks,
this
man.
is your time. This is your time.
Yeah.
And then so next year we jump up to a couple of $1 million in revenue for the year. And how long do you think it's going to take us to get to $1 million a month in revenue? So
I would
it's
say so 2022 for sure.
you
With
think we can
2022
get
for
there that
sure.
quickly?
I know we can. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, look,
Wow.
this was just one event. And then so here's what's really compelling. It's the next study that we're doing in January is a 4-month study.
Yeah.
We know based on the first results of the first study that next raise is going to be a large, 10, $12 million Series A raise, and that's going to be the fuel that we need to get that. So I would say by 2020, Q4 2022, we're at $1 million in revenue a month, easy. And yeah, and
That's all you got to
so
say, brother, because
yeah.
at that
Yeah.
stage, you're on your way to being a
I,
unicorn. And I
I
think,
do want to say one more. I do want to say
yeah,
one more thing, though.
yeah.
What investors should be thinking about is look at the comparables in this space, right? You look at what happened with Livongo, $5 billion IPO a few maybe 2 years ago, right? They also have a continuous glucose monitor device, also in the diabetes management space, not reversal space, right? But this is a potential cooperator of ours, right? $5 billion IPO recently just merged and had an $18.5 billion merger and acquisition with Teldoc, right? So we are the first and only nutrition telemedicine platform on the planet. There's no one else doing this. It's a really hard product to duplicate, and we also have the model, the partnership with Tony. We're getting ready to go supersonic. The last thing that I want to say, in addition to Livongo, there's been a couple of other. Fitbit acquired. First of all, they had an incredible IPO, but then recently acquired by Google. So you look at what happened now. Amazon just launched Halo, right? A wearable device. All of the major the big three, big four companies are looking to get into digital health. They're looking to get into telemedicine, right? And they're looking for devices that can capture this kind of data and works well with a lot of their existing products. So
You stole my
uh,
clothes out of my mouth. I had it there. I had it there. The only thing I was going to add in actually is that that the market are so desperate for healthcare success that even Peloton, which is a bunch of metal from China, is
Hmm.
hitting is hitting
Yes.
unicorn status. So there
Yes.
is no question. The
Look at
timing is
Mirror.
absolutely right.
Mirror
Mm.
pre-launch had a $200 million
Yeah,
value. It acquired
yeah,
for 500 million a few months after their launch. So,
yeah. And don't
we're
take
there.
me to don't
And
even.
I would say we've got sounder fundamentals. Other than Livongo, I would say we've got sounder fundamentals than all the other companies I just mentioned.
So
And we have a real solution, not just a nice to have, but a must have for anybody that's trying to manage blood sugar. And here's the kicker. People think diabetes is the issue. The bigger issue is insulin resistance, right? Also known as metabolic syndrome. That is the precursor to prediabetes. And 70% of the US, and I would say 60 or 50% of the world, has insulin resistance. And so, like I said, mark my words, 2021 will be the year that people are going to understand glycemic variability and insulin resistance, and we're ahead of that curve. And so, just some more food for thought, no pun
I
intended.
think you're a beautiful human being whose time has come. I think you've got a phenomenal platform. I used to think of it as a device. I don't think of it as a device anymore. I think of it as a Trojan horse platform to actually
Yeah.
help people lead a healthier and better lives. I see you building 10, 20, 30, 50 bits of data, which will all come from that, all which will feed directly back into people so that they can self check themselves and make sure that they're on the right road rather than ending up in hospitals on the bad road. I see healthcare institutions partnering with you from a venture perspective in the future because this is going to have fewer people going into hospitals. I see the company growing exactly what you said to $1 million a month. I think if you can get it in 2022, God bless you. I would have put 2023, but I love that you're pushing for 2022 and almost angry that I would question it. So I couldn't be happier with everything you've done. We're going to nail this. I was there with you at the beginning of my dojo journey, and you and we're going to go all the way on this one. And I'm going to be standing right behind you when you're ringing that bell. Investors, if you're listening, I don't care if you somehow missed the fact that this product is so incredibly important and is going to grow to phenomenal lengths. And we invested smartly, I will say, in the same way that you should invest smartly. I don't even care about that. But even if you don't quite get that yet, and you need to go in and do more diligence on that, you need to understand something. The world needs this. It is not an idea. It is not a concept. It is built. It is backed by one of the biggest healthcare motivators on the planet. Reach out to Anthony, find out how you can invest, find out how you can help market and distribute, find out how you can help introduce them to people, find out how you can bring healthcare folks into it. I don't care how you help, but every single person should be on board in trying to see if we can turn back this awful epidemic that we're facing right now with sugar. Anthony, I'll leave you with the very last quick words, and also please share your website and your email as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate it. Yeah, just, the final word is if you're a passionate investor, if you've had any personal tie to, over being overweight, obesity, if you're measuring your food right now, if you've used MyFitnessPal, Lose It, any of these inaccurate manual calorie counting solutions, you need to at least give this 30 minutes of your time because you're going to understand this problem. And I would love to speak with you guys. I'm reachable at anthony@fitly.com. Fitly is spelled F as in Frank, I as in India, T as in Tom, L as in Larry, Y as in yesterday, anthony@fitly.com. And yeah, reach me on my email, and I look forward to scheduling a Zoom call, maybe giving you guys a demo.
And Anthony, the product can be found at fitly.com
Get
or SmartPlate.
GetSmartPlate.com.
Great.
GetSmartPlate.com. That's the web address.
Check it out. You guys will love it. Anthony,
Awesome, brother.
right
Thank you
until
so
we
much.
die, brother.
Hell yeah, man. This is gonna be. I'll see you in 2022. I'm keeping my word, brother.
I'll be
Thank you
there.
so much. Okay.
That's a wrap.
See you, man.
Thanks, man.
Later on. Bye bye.